If you go to jail for unpaid medical bills and are sick in jail, what then? Should Christian schools be accredited at all? Isn't it time for another run-by fruiting? For February 26th, 2016, from the stylish high-tech underground studios of Ribbit Media in creepily windy Cranston, Rhode Island, this is NewsUndies. For February 26, 2016, this is NewsUndies, all the news that shouldn't be news. I'm Paul Torville with these headlines. Rex Orval Iverson was arrested for failing to pay a $2,400 ambulance bill. He died in jail the same day. This was in Box Elder County, Utah. Utah, another place never to move to. Jeb, also known as John Edward Bush, has dropped out of the 2016 presidential race. Where do all those millions and millions of unspent Super PAC dollars go? Well, it's beginning to look like Right to Rise USA, the Super PAC most closely associated with Jeb, is in a spend it till it's gone mode, and most of the spending is going to lawyers and accountants. So, if you donated to that Super PAC, yeah, you're not going to see any of that back. President Obama now says that the prison at Guantanamo Bay doesn't help our national security. It undermines it. On the bright side, it only took us 15 years to figure that out. While a guest on Fox and Friends, former Speaker of the House Newt Gingrich reminded Steve the Deuce Ducey and his pals that they basically invented Donald Trump's presidential candidacy, which they're kind of lamenting now. So, nice job, the Deuce. And while we're talking about people making sense on Fox News, Bill O'Reilly backed Ben Carson into a corner where he had no choice but to admit it's basically over for him. O'Reilly told him, quote, "I don't think you're gonna do it," end quote, to which Carson replied, "That may be." O'Reilly went on to say, quote, "If you don't do well on Super Tuesday, you have to pack it in," end quote, and Carson did not refute that. Wow! Ben Carson skims across the surface of reality with the help of none other than Bill O'Reilly. Now I have seen everything. And while you may be thinking about the evils of this group or that person, according to Robert Carlson, the Archbishop of St. Louis, Missouri, the group you really need to be wary of is, of course, the Girl Scouts. The diocese circulated a letter to its priests suggesting that Girl Scouts USA should not be entrusted with the, quote, spiritual formation of its charges, end quote, since the group supports such things as contraception and abortion and feminism and pants and cookies. Oh, the devil's own Thin Mints. Come on, Bob, you're a man in a dress with a necklace that has a naked man on it. And in squirrel news, back in 2012, the Netherlands built a bridge over the N44 motorway between Hagsebos Forest and Klingendel Park. Seems sensible enough. Some people are complaining that the 150,000 euros were wasted on the bridge, especially considering the bridge was constructed for the exclusive use of squirrels. In the 3.5 years since the bridge has gone up, only 5 squirrels have actually been seen crossing it. I don't know what they're complaining about. I mean, in the U.S., that money would not have even covered the environmental impact statement in preparation to put up the bridge. So for the cost of a modest house in a so-so neighborhood in the U.S., you got a lovely bridge for scampering woodland creatures. Shut up and be happy. Don't eat the fish. Up next, Tennessean is believin'. What's Bill Gates' angle? And what's a yellow card and why should I care?
Whether you prefer post-industrial vampire trance music or neo-gothic nerdcore speed thrash, Royal Records is the record store for you. Royal Records has albums and cassettes from many of your favorite artists, including The Letterman, The Righteous Brothers, The Insane Clown Posse, The Slipknots, and The Nine Inch Nails. No matter your taste, you'll find the records and tapes you love at Royal Records, Main Street, downtown. Open weekdays from 10 to 4.
Terry Crews. Ever heard of Douglas Wilson? Well, unless you're his particular stripe of Christian, or you've happened to see the documentary Collision, wherein he and the late Christopher Hitchens discussed various God and religion-related topics, you've probably never heard of Douglas Wilson. Wilson is one of those Christians who's really read the Bible. I mean, really read it. As well as a lot of ancillary texts, and still believes it. I mean, really believes it. Now, what makes Wilson a little weird is that he's read it, he believes it, and he's not a complete idiot. He speaks eloquently and is well read. He's considered his positions carefully, and they make perfect sense to him. For instance, here's an excerpt from his book, Southern Slavery as It Was. Slavery, as it existed in the South, was a relationship based upon mutual affection and confidence. There has never been a multiracial society which has existed with such mutual intimacy and harmony in the history of the world. Wilson is a fundamentalist Christian and has expressed many of the tedious yet horrifying views that usually are associated with that label, including advocating the subservience of women, punitive measures for homosexuality, execution for adultery, and so on. Well, old Doug founded an organization back in 1994 called the Association of Classical and Christian Schools, which, according to its current website, ACCS is organized for the mission of promoting, establishing, and equipping member schools committed to a classical approach to education in the light of a Christian worldview grounded in the Old and New Testament scriptures commonly known as the Bible. This mission shall be accomplished through national and regional conferences, publications, and distribution of books, bulletins, and newsletters, consulting services, accreditation, testing, and any other necessary, proper, and lawful means. Although Wilson is no longer officially connected to the organization, they still have a high enough opinion of him and his opinions to have him speak at their annual conference in Atlanta this year, and he is giving a plenary talk on leadership and mimetic desire. Should be riveting. Well, this fine organization is being considered to be listed in the state of Tennessee as an accreditor of Christian schools in the state. Tennessee Senate Bill 1792 proposes to do just that. I'm so glad that we kept the union together. And now here's Horse with this week's Obscure Religion Report.
What we now call Zoroastrianism predates Christianity by about 2,000 years. It was founded by the Iranian prophet Zoroaster, sometimes called Zarathustra, a name you may know from the piece of music that opened Stanley Kubrick's film 2001: A Space Odyssey. Zoroastrianism, by many accounts, is a monotheistic religion centered on the god Ahura Mazda, as proclaimed by a prophet, although some interpretations make it out to be more pantheistic. Also, Freddie Mercury was a Zoroastrian.
Well, there you go. As you may have heard, there's been a kerfuffle going on for a while now, wherein the FBI is pressuring Apple to unlock the iPhones belonging to the crazy Sacramento shooters from a couple of months ago, and Apple has been, so far, politely declining. Now, Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates has chimed in, and he thinks Apple should just cave. What is this really about? Here are Pig and Sheep with their thoughts.
Bill Gates is right.
This is the FBI asking to gain access to a certain bad person's encrypted information. It's not like it's the government trying to take away my right to own a perfectly unreasonable firearm while not interfering with my right to own reasonable firearms. Bill Gates, like many successful business people, is opportunistic. Also, like many successful business people, he appears to be in possession of flexible ethics and morals. Now that Gates doesn't have any official skin in the game, since he's retired from the day-to-day operations of Microsoft, but by many accounts is still a very significant shareholder, when Microsoft was being hounded by the Justice Department over Microsoft's monopolistic behavior, he fought tooth and nail and testified before Congress. Now, Apple, Microsoft's longtime rival, is under pressure from the feds. Sure, it's for something different, but I wouldn't be a bit surprised by the following. If Microsoft had Apple's share of the smartphone market and the Sacramento shooters had Microsoft phones, I bet Gates would be singing more or less the same tune as Tim Cook. And Gates talked about tying a ribbon around the hard drive that holds the data. Well, that's one thing if they're going to the bank for the data and it's the bank's data and the bank's equipment. But if the data they're looking for is on the lunatic's phone, that's another matter. Apple doesn't own the phone or the user's data stored therein. And besides, if the U.S. government can't crack these phones without the help of Apple, then we might as well just fold up the entire intelligence apparatus of this country. I'm fairly sure that involving Apple is more theater than anything else. That's what Pig and Sheep think. What are your thoughts? Email them to ovcomments@newsundies.com. You know what it's like to be kicked in the head with an iron boot? Still to come, what if he just took his ball and went home? And, at long last, have you no decency?
Have you been injured in an accident, or can you pretend to have been? If so, we may be entitled to 40% of any settlement you receive. We're the law offices of Angry, Bitter, Vindictive, and Rosenblatt, and we've spent over half a century profiting from the pain and suffering of people who, in some cases, didn't even know they were suffering or in pain. At Angry, Bitter, Vindictive, and Rosenblatt, our attorneys have the skills and experience necessary to turn almost any activity into billable hours, and that means you can pay us more. Angry, Bitter, Vindictive, and Rosenblatt, specializing in personal injury, family law, product liability claims, and almost any other area where emotion weighs more than evidence. Angry, Bitter, Vindictive, and Rosenblatt, getting richer off your mild discomfort since 1955.
Faye Resnick. And now here's Moose Weintraub with a Sports Half Minute.
Moose Weintraub Sports Half Minute. It's a whole half minute of sports. 30 seconds of sports. Moose Weintraub Sports Half Minute.
This is your Sports Half Minute. I'm Moose Weintraub. Barcelona beat Arsenal 2-0. There was something about a yellow card, and I don't know what that means.
Moose Weintraub Sports Half Minute.
Thanks, Moose. Always a great report from Moose. And now, this week's Dear Superman. Dear Superman, does your cape have some kind of a safety quick release so you don't choke yourself or something? Sincerely, name withheld. Send in your thoughts and questions on the Story Tips page at NewsUndies.com or in the comments below. Just start it with Dear Superman. Adolf Hitler is famous for his 5-year tantrum that left Europe in tatters. There is a mountain of speculation regarding what might have motivated him. Mommy didn't hug him enough. Father McFeely was a little too hands-on. Whatever. Among the various theories was the hypothesis that Hitler had only one testicle. Ha ha ha! Hitler had only one ball! Yes. Research into medical records now shows Adolf Hitler had a micropenis and only one descended testicle. So now all the insensitive jokes can really begin. I mean, if he hadn't plunged Europe into a new dark age, and he was a kid today, would we be all sensitive to his sexual deformity? How weird would that be? I mean, it's Hitler we're talking about. Ugh. And finally, and I do mean finally, we all saw this coming, didn't we? If the 1993 Robin Williams vehicle Mrs. Doubtfire is in any way a source of happy memories or feelings for you, this might be a good time to skip ahead to the wrap-up. Okay. Sony Pictures has engaged Chris Columbus, the director of Mrs. Doubtfire, to helm a remake starring Jonah Hill. No word yet on how terrible they're planning to make it. The new Mrs. Doubtfire is scheduled for release next year. I'm sorry. I am so very sorry. Well, that's all for this edition of NewsUndies. If you see news that shouldn't be news, you can submit your story tips online at newsundies.com or on Twitter with the hashtag NUSTip. NewsUndies is a weekly show. We'll be back on Friday, March 4th with fresh undies. If you like this video, please like this video. If you like the show, please spread the word. Got a question, comment, or suggestion? Leave it in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube, circle us on Google+, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, ignore us on MySpace, tell your friends, and buy NewsUndies Kitsch at newsundies.com. Thanks for watching. For all of us here at NewsUndies, until next time, I'm Paul Torville. After that, I might be looking for a comparatively recent and iconic media property to reimagine for a new generation.
I just want to tell you good luck. We're all counting on you.